Bonjour mes amis, hi guys. As I'm walking back to the office this morning, I want to reflect on the new releases and changes made in the lineup of Rolex and Tudor in a later video yesterday. So 10 minutes after the releases, fanboys were already calling them boring, but I think there's a lot of things to discuss. And let's not remember that Rolex has a great idea, a great new model every 10, 15 years, and the rest of the time they just improve on the reliability and the design of the watches. And often what the fanboys are asking is just not really realistic. It is based off things Rolex has done before, and if they were really doing what we were asking for, we would blame them for not being very original. Also, we must understand that decisions of which the result we saw yesterday were taken probably more than 2 years ago. I would say 3 years for the cycle of releases. And back then the world was a bit different. It was just when the Pepsi would come out, and models like the Explorer, for example, were not really outselling. And a model like the Explorer 2 was selling okay. It had found its niche. It was not maybe the best seller. But in the last 3 years, everything went crazy. And then people make up these expectations that the Explorer 2 has to change drastically. And of course, we saw yesterday that there's barely any change. Maybe a slightly better polishing and a new movement in it, and a few changes on the dial, on the hands, the orange hand. And the rest is technical improvements. As I said, the polishing and also the chromalite, which apparently will be more intense at night, last longer, and will be of a brighter hue in the daytime. And this is what Rolex does, just trying to make things incrementally better. Also, the whole focus on investing in Rolex and all those things, that is not their concern. The fact that Instagram exploded, that there's so many new watch channels pushing the same product every day, talking about Rolex non-stop, it's not really the problem of Geneva, is it? They really live in a different environment and they are in a different mind space. And they've been used to being very successful before and have times when some models were less successful. And we all get excited at the moment, but I don't think that's the way the executives at Rolex see things at all. To be fair, to this day, just like back in the early days, they will throw a few things at the wall and see what sticks. And it will be a concerted effort between the designers who have ideas of where they could take consumer tastes in the future, and the sales and marketing department who want to please some markets like the Chinese burgeoning market, for example. And then there's the technical limitations and developments, which are huge there at Rolex. And then there's the CEO's vision of the future. And all those things make for a vast array of moving parts to deal with. So with all that in mind, let's see a bit what really the releases of yesterday mean and how they might have come about. The Explorer, to start with. My watch, which I love, and sometimes I feel like I'm the only one too, has been discontinued, the 39mm, which I think is perfect and fills now a big gap in the lineup. if anything, we were expecting it to grow to the 41 or 40.5 millimeter case, and it's just gone, replaced by a 36. So as I said, looking back 3 years ago, it wasn't really selling. I have videos of myself going to ADs, seeing the watch, not even asking to try it on. And when I bought mine 2 years ago, it is the last time ever that I saw one in a display window at a Rolex AD in Hong Kong. You see how times have changed. But a year before that, when it was probably decided to discontinue it at Rolex, it was not a heavy seller. And probably somebody in marketing said, well, the 36 millimeter was the classic size. Nobody will blame us to go back to that. And it will please the Asian market, which is going to be our main target for the next coming years. And just so we don't look too silly doing that back and forth, let's throw in a two-tone, which we know people in Hong Kong love. And I'm sure we can turn around a few minds in the US as well with that. That way we have a nice little package at the release in 2021. Meanwhile, they also increase the sizes of all the other models. So sometimes I think it makes no sense. And they do take decisions just, I don't know, maybe it's one executive's ID that prevails at one meeting. I think we maybe see too much into some of the decisions taken for the new releases. Now, am I interested at all in the boy size, the classic size Explorer? Absolutely not. I love my 39mm. It is perfect for my wrist size. And I'm sure it's going to increase in price now immediately at the dealers. Even if it doubled or tripled, I would never sell it. I'm very proud to own it and to have purchased it at a Rolex authorized dealer. Now about the Explorer 2, I've already said most of what I had to say. Slight redesign, little improvements, just like they used to do back in the days. It's a bit of a slap in the face for the owners of the outgoing model, but really nobody will ever notice the difference on the wrist. And and I'm sure dealers will spin it around and pretend that it was something special. Maybe the rotor noise in itself will be a differentiator in the future. And if it's your only watch, what does a longer power reserve really do to you? For the rest, slight better polishing, nicer transition from the case to the bracelet. Okay, once you've scratched it all a bit, because it's meant to be used on the field, doesn't really make a difference. And yes, the size stays 42. It's an exploration watch. And again, it makes no sense that the Explorer would be reduced in size. And that doesn't mean that in the future we're not going to see a 41mm case Explorer. I think as I said, they just try and test and see what the market says. But the Explorer 2 is very, very tooly, and legibility, there's a lot of information on it. Legibility has to be good. So it stays 42. It stays a cool watch. But is the market now going to change its view that everything is rare and unobtainable? At this point, we understand that Rolex, just like any other brand, will always come up with new products, slight refinements, and that there's not really a rush to go and pay a premium on a watch that was never very popular. It's a bit the ugly duckling. And in the case of the Explorer 2, in the white face, the polar one, it is really quite the ugly duckling. I think the size of the hands is just made for legibility, but it's a bit on the goofy side. It blends much better on the black dial. If you didn't see any reason to buy one before, I don't think there's any better reason now. And clearly, with this redesign now after 10 years of the introduction of this 42mm model, you know that they're going to do it for the next several years, probably 10 years, unless it was proving very unpopular. So again, no rush there. Moving on to the bracelet options. Just like they used to do in the past, it is still unclear whether you can go to an AD who call you to pick up your black and blue or your blue and red GMT Master 2, whether you'll be able to swap bracelets right there and then, or whether you'll be able to purchase the other bracelet at the service center separately. I'm guessing that's where they're going. And in the context, in our little collector's mind, we think, oh, that's impossible. Everything has to be super rare and complicated. But maybe this decision was taken 3 years ago. Maybe it was taken just a few weeks ago. It's not really a lot of work, really, for Rolex, because it's all compatible. And yeah, I don't know where they're going with that ID. It surely changes the optics of especially the Batman. I think the Pepsi still looks better on the Jubilee. But for the Batman, a bit of a slap in the face of the outgoing Batman. But again, it was available at the ADs 3 years ago when the life cycle was ending for that version. So it's we have to reframe the way we see those changes. And it's going to be interesting. And I hope those bracelets will be available, but I don't think the watches themselves will be any more available than before. Rolex is back to full capacity in production, and those chatters concerning an extension of the production capacity, the new building, it's actually very, very small, so it's not really going to make any difference. It's not going to make a dent at all, given the demand. So anything that will really be a game changer would be another brand taking over the market, or just tastes moving away, as the hobby keeps on going. A lot of people will look at other brands to differentiate themselves. But for now, I think Rolex remains the king. Bye-bye, guys.